The science vessel. Eternal curiosity drifted through the empty sector of space that most ships avoided. There was nothing here worth finding, or so the old maps said. But Day didn't trust old maps. He was an archaeologist, and he knew that the most interesting discoveries came from places people forgot to look. He stood in the observation deck, his dark eyes scanning the blackness outside. His team had been searching this region for 3 months now, following strange energy readings that shouldn't exist. Ancient energy readings. "Day, you need to see this!" Hana's voice crackled through his communicator. She was the ship's captain, a woman who had seen more of the galaxy than most people could imagine. Nothing surprised her anymore. But now her voice carried something unusual. Excitement. Maybe even fear. Day rushed to the bridge. The crew had gathered around the main display screen, staring at something that made no sense. There, floating in the void, was a structure. It was massive, maybe 5 kilometers across, built in a perfect sphere. The metal it was made from reflected light in ways that hurt to look at. "What am I seeing?" Day asked. Hana pointed at the readings scrolling across her screen. "That thing is old, really old. Our instruments say it's been here for 40,000 years, give or take a few centuries." 40,000 years! Day felt his heart race. The Caltherian Empire, his people's civilization, was only 12,000 years old. The oldest known structures in the galaxy were maybe 20,000 years old. This thing was twice that age. "What's it made of?" he asked. Yuna, the ship's physicist, looked up from her console. Her face was pale. "That's the problem. I don't know. The material isn't in any database. It's not breaking down, it's not degrading, it's as perfect now as it was when it was built. That shouldn't be possible. Everything decays eventually." Day moved closer to the screen. The structure had patterns carved into its surface, symbols that seemed to shift when he looked at them directly. "Can we get closer?" Hana nodded. "Already on approach. But Day, there's something else. That thing is still powered. After 40,000 years, it's still drawing energy from somewhere. We can't figure out the source." The ship moved slowly toward the ancient sphere. As they got closer, Day could see more details. The symbols weren't just carved into the surface. They glowed with a soft blue light that pulsed like a heartbeat. There were no doors, no windows, no obvious way inside. Tay, the ship's linguist, joined them on the bridge. He was young, barely 30, but he could read languages that had been dead for millennia. He stared at the symbols and his mouth fell open. "This is impossible," he whispered. "What is it?" Day asked. "These symbols. They're from at least 50 different language families. Some I recognize from extinct civilizations, but they're all saying the same thing. The same message repeated over and over in every language." "What does it say?" Tay swallowed hard. "It says Memorial, and there's a designation, Sol 3 Memorial Archive." The name meant nothing to Day. "Sol 3? Is that a planet?" "Not in any records I know," Hana said, already searching the ship's database. "There's no system called Sol in any map. It's like it never existed." Day studied the sphere again. A memorial that old in a dead region of space for a place that had no records. Someone had gone to incredible effort to make sure this thing lasted forever. But why? What were they trying to remember? "Take us to docking range," he said. "I want a full scan, and get me a survey team ready. We're going inside if we can find a way." The next 6 hours were frustrating. The sphere had no entrance, no hatches, no airlocks, nothing. The surface was completely smooth except for the glowing symbols. Day's team tried everything. They scanned for weak points. They searched for hidden panels. They even tried asking the structure to open in every language Tai knew. Nothing worked. It was Yuna who finally figured it out. She noticed that the energy readings from the sphere changed slightly when their ship moved to certain positions. After some calculations, she found the right spot. The moment the eternal curiosity aligned with a specific point in space, something changed. The symbols on the sphere began to glow brighter. Then they started to move, flowing across the surface like liquid. They gathered at one point, directly facing the ship, and formed into a new pattern, a circle with lines radiating outward. "That's a universal greeting," Tay said. "It's welcoming us." A section of the sphere simply wasn't there anymore. One moment it was solid metal. The next moment there was an opening, large enough for a shuttle to pass through. No door had opened. The metal had just stopped existing in that spot. Day suited up with his team. Hana insisted on coming too, despite Day's protests that the captain should stay with the ship. "I'm not missing this," she said. "Wu can handle the ship for a few hours." Commander Wu, the head of their small security team, nodded. He didn't like the idea of the captain going into an unknown ancient structure, but he knew better than to argue with Hana. They took a shuttle through the opening. Inside, the sphere was hollow. The walls glowed with the same soft blue light, providing perfect visibility. The interior was a single massive chamber, and at its center floated a cylinder of crystalline material. It rotated slowly, and inside it, Day could see something like liquid light flowing in patterns. "Is that a computer?" Hana asked. "More advanced than any computer I've seen," Yuna said, her instruments going wild with readings. "It's processing information on a quantum level, maybe even higher dimensions. This technology is centuries beyond anything we have." Day approached the cylinder carefully. As he got within a few meters, it reacted. The liquid light inside began to flow faster, forming shapes and symbols. Then, without warning, the cylinder projected an image into the air. It was a star system, a yellow star with several planets orbiting it. The third planet from the sun was marked with a bright indicator. As they watched, data began to appear around it: temperature ranges, atmospheric composition, gravity measurements, everything you would need to know about a living world. "This is incredible," Tay breathed. "This is a complete record of a planetary system." But then the image changed. The third planet began to break apart. It wasn't an explosion. It was more like the planet was being carefully dismantled, piece by piece. The image showed the process taking years, maybe decades. When it was done, the planet was gone. In its place was a ring of debris. "They're showing us what happened to their world," Hana said quietly. The image faded. New symbols appeared, floating in the air. Tay moved closer, reading them carefully. His face went white. "What?" Day demanded. "What does it say?" Tay's voice shook. "It's a warning. It says we were here, we died here. We left this message for those who come after. Remember us, learn from us, and for the sake of everything you love, flee." The word "flee" appeared in letters 10 feet tall, burning bright red. It hung in the air for a long moment. Then the entire structure began to hum. The blue light grew brighter and brighter until they had to shield their eyes. Then, as suddenly as it started, it stopped. The light returned to normal. The floating text disappeared. But now Day understood one thing clearly. Whoever built this memorial had been afraid. Terribly afraid, and they wanted everyone who found it to be afraid too. The question was, afraid of what? The Caltherian High Council chamber was carved from a single piece of black stone, polished until it reflected like a mirror. Day stood in the center of the room, surrounded by the 12 council members who governed his entire civilization. He had presented his findings 3 times now, and they still couldn't agree on what to do. Admiral Sung stood from his seat. He was old, with gray fur and scars from a dozen wars. "The message is clear. We should quarantine the system immediately. Whatever destroyed that planet, whatever made them leave that warning, it's not something we want to disturb." Counselor Nari laughed. She was younger, ambitious, and had built her career on expanding Caltherian territory. You want us to run away from a 40,000-year-old message? That planet is already destroyed. Whatever danger existed, it's long gone. What remains is technology more advanced than anything in the known galaxy. That's exactly why we should be careful, Sung argued. We don't understand it. We don't know what it does or why it was built. Which is why we need to study it, Nari shot back. The Vrexian Collective and the nomadic clans are both expanding their territories. If we find advanced technology in that system and they don't, we gain an advantage. We can't afford to ignore this opportunity because of some ancient warning. The council voted 8-4 in favor of continuing the investigation. Dai felt sick. He had seen that warning. He had felt the fear behind it. But apparently, fear was less important than power. Hana was waiting for him outside the council chamber. They're going forward with it, aren't they? Day nodded. They're sending us back with a bigger team, more scientists, more soldiers, more equipment. Nari wants a full excavation of the entire system. That's insane. That's politics. 2 weeks later, the Eternal Curiosity returned to the Sol system with 5 other ships. The fleet carried over 300 personnel, including military escorts under Commander Wu. Day had asked for a small, careful research team. Instead, he got an invasion force. The first thing they found was the debris field. Where the third planet should have been, there were billions of pieces of rock and metal, all orbiting in perfect formation. But these weren't natural asteroids. When Day's team examined them closer, they found something impossible. The rocks were carved. Every single piece of debris, from boulders the size of mountains to pebbles smaller than a fist, had been shaped and marked with symbols. It was as if someone had taken an entire planet and turned it into a monument. This would take millions of years, Hana said, staring at the scans. How did they do this? Yuna was studying the debris with her instruments. Her hands were shaking. Hana, these aren't just carved rocks. Look at this. She projected an image of one of the larger pieces. Inside the rock, they could see something that looked like crystal formations. But as they zoomed in, Day realized he was looking at shapes. Figures, people frozen in crystal. There are bodies in the rocks? Hana asked. Not exactly, Yuna said. These crystals contain data, neural patterns, memories. Each one of these crystals is a preserved consciousness, a complete person, their entire life, saved in crystalline form. Day did the math in his head. Billions of pieces of debris. If even a fraction of them contained these crystals, that meant trillions of preserved minds. How many? Based on our scans, maybe 40 billion individual consciousness patterns, give or take. 40 billion people. An entire civilization turned into living memories scattered across space. Dave felt cold. Why would they do this? I don't know, Yuna admitted, but it must have been important. This kind of preservation doesn't happen by accident. Someone chose to do this. Someone wanted to make sure these people were never forgotten. The team spent the next week exploring the system. They found more structures. There was an artificial moon orbiting what used to be the 4th planet. There were stations built into asteroids. There were satellites that still functioned after 40,000 years, watching the empty space where a world used to be. And everywhere they went, they found warnings. The same message repeated in hundreds of languages, flee. But they also found something else. Records. Data archives built to last forever. Tay and his team of linguists worked around the clock to translate them. What they discovered made Day wish they had listened to Admiral Sung. The people of Sol 3 called themselves humans. They had built a civilization that lasted thousands of years. They had art and music and literature. They had wars and peace and everything in between. They were, by all accounts, a normal species. Not particularly strong or smart or special, just people trying to survive in a big galaxy. Then they made first contact. The records called them the Predecessor Alliance. They were the galaxy's rulers, a coalition of species that had dominated known space for over 600,000 years. They were powerful, advanced, and peaceful. They welcomed humanity with open arms. For 200 years, humans and the predecessor alliance worked together. Humans learned faster than light travel. They colonized other worlds. They joined galactic civilization. Everything was perfect. Then something changed. The records became strange. Humans started reporting unusual experiences. They said they could hear things that others couldn't. They said they understood concepts that should have been impossible. They began solving problems that had stumped galactic science for millennia. Day read one account from a human scientist named Hyun. He described waking up one morning and suddenly understanding the mathematics of higher dimensions. Not learning it, just knowing it, as if the information had always been in his head. Within a month, he had designed an engine that could fold space in ways that should have been impossible. This happened to more and more humans. They called it the emergence. They didn't know what caused it. They didn't know how to stop it. They just knew they were changing into something different. The predecessor alliance was afraid. They had never seen evolution happen this fast. They tried to study it. They tried to control it. They placed restrictions on human technology and human travel. They quarantined human worlds. None of it worked. Humans kept evolving, kept changing, kept becoming more. Then the predecessor alliance made a decision. If they couldn't control humanity's evolution, they would stop it by force. They would erase humans from the galaxy before they became a threat. Hana found the military records. She wished she hadn't. The files contained footage of the attack, ships appearing in human space without warning, weapons that turned entire planets to glass, biological agents that killed millions in hours, antimatter bombs that cracked the crust of colony worlds. Earth's population was 40 billion. In 3 days, fewer than 5 million were alive. The predecessor alliance didn't just attack military targets. They tried to kill every human everywhere, men, women, children. It didn't matter. They wanted humanity extinct. Day watched the footage in silence. He saw cities burning. He saw people running. He saw children crying for parents who would never come. He saw the end of a civilization. But he also saw something else. The humans who survived didn't just hide. They changed. They evolved faster than before, as if the attack had triggered something. And when they emerged from the ruins of their world, they were not the same species anymore. The last translated file was a message from the predecessor Alliance High Command to all member worlds. It was only 3 words long. We have failed. Below it, in human language, someone had added a note. It was written by a woman named Hio. She had been a teacher before the war. Now she was one of the few survivors. Her message was simple and terrifying. You tried to kill us because you feared what we might become. Now we are what you feared. We will give you one chance to surrender. If you refuse, we will do to you what you tried to do to us. But we will be more merciful. We will let you live. You will just lose everything that made you powerful. Prepare yourselves. We are coming. Day closed the file. His hands were shaking. When was this written? Tay checked the timestamp. 40,018 years ago, 3 days after the Earth's destruction. And the predecessor alliance? Gone, Tay said quietly. There are no records of them in any modern database. It's like they never existed. The only traces are in archaeological ruins. Day understood now. He understood the warning. Humanity hadn't been destroyed. They had won. They had defeated the most powerful empire in galactic history. And then they had left that message for anyone who came after. Flee. Because if you disturb this place, if you threaten what we left behind, we might come back. And you don't want us to come back. Day reported all of this to Counselor Nari. She listened to everything. Then she smiled. "Perfect," she said. "If humans could defeat the predecessor alliance with this technology, imagine what we could do with it. Continue the excavation. I want every piece of human technology recovered and analyzed." "You're not listening," Day said. "This is a warning." "No," Nari replied. "This is an opportunity, and I'm not going to waste it because you're afraid of ghosts." The artificial moon hung in space like a silver pearl. It was the size of a small planet, perfectly spherical, and covered in the same strange metal as the memorial beacon. Day's expedition team approached it carefully in their shuttle. Commander Wu sat in the pilot's seat, his weapon ready even though there was nothing to shoot at. "I don't like this," Wu said for the 5th time. "We're disturbing things that were meant to stay buried." Day didn't disagree, but Counselor Nari had given them direct orders. The military escort now included 50 armed soldiers. If there was any trouble, Wu was supposed to handle it. Day just hoped trouble wouldn't find them. The shuttle docked at a port that opened automatically when they approached. Inside, the moon was hollow like the memorial beacon. But this place was different. The walls weren't smooth. They were covered in screens and displays, all dark and dormant. In the center of the chamber was a massive cylinder, twice as tall as the one they had found before. "This is a data storage facility," Yuna said, scanning the structure. "The amount of information in here is incredible. We're talking about petabytes of data, maybe more. This could be the entire recorded history of their species." Tay was already at one of the wall panels, his translation device working to decode the symbols. "It's labeled as the Exodus Records, a complete account of humanity's final years and what came after." "Can you access it?" Day asked. "I think so. The interface is surprisingly intuitive. It's like they wanted someone to find this and read it." The main cylinder activated. Light flowed through it like water, and suddenly the entire chamber came alive. The walls lit up with images and text. Holographic displays appeared in the air, showing star maps and timelines and faces of people long dead. A voice spoke. It was synthetic, created by the system, but somehow it sounded sad. "Welcome, Seekers. You have found the Exodus Records. This archive contains the truth of what happened to humanity, the truth of what we became, the truth of why we left. Please understand that what you learn here may change how you see the universe. Proceed with caution." The displays began to show images: Earth before the attack, cities that reached into the sky, oceans that sparkled blue, forests and mountains and deserts, billions of humans living their lives, unaware of what was coming. Then the images changed. Ships appeared in orbit. Predecessor Alliance vessels, thousands of them. The attack began without warning. Day had seen footage before. But this was different. These were personal recordings from humans on the ground. He saw a mother holding her child as fire rained from the sky. He saw a man trying to help his injured friend while buildings collapsed around them. He saw entire cities vanish in bright flashes of light. Hana turned away from one display, her eyes wet. "Why are they showing us this?" the synthetic voice answered. "So you understand what was done to us, so you know why we chose what we chose. Empathy requires context." The images shifted again. Now they showed the survivors. 5 million humans left from 40 billion. They hid in underground shelters, in remote areas, in the ruins of their cities. They were broken, traumatized, grieving, but they were also changing. One display focused on a young woman named Gina. She had been a musician before the war. Now she sat in a bomb shelter with 24 other survivors, and she was staring at her hands as if she had never seen them before. The recording had audio. "I can see it now," Gina said. "The music, not hear it, see it. Every sound has a shape, a color, a dimension. I can see the fundamental frequency of reality itself. It's beautiful and terrifying. What's happening to us?" Another display showed a man named Quan. He had been a farmer. Now he stood in the ruins of a city and spoke to the camera with tears running down his face. I can feel them. All of them. Everyone who died. Their consciousness didn't disappear. It's still here, woven into space-time. We're not separate beings. We never were. We're all part of the same thing. And I can feel the hole where 40 billion people used to be. Yuna watched the displays with growing understanding. They're ascending, moving beyond physical existence. This is what the predecessor alliance was afraid of. But they didn't choose it, Day said. The attack forced it. The trauma triggered the evolution. The synthetic voice spoke again. Correct. The emergence was always going to happen, but slowly. Over thousands of years. We would have had time to adapt, to understand, to prepare. The genocide accelerated the process. In pain and grief and desperate need to survive, we changed in weeks what should have taken millennia. The displays now showed meetings. The surviving humans gathered in groups, trying to decide what to do. Some wanted revenge, some wanted to hide. Some wanted to finish their evolution and leave the physical universe entirely. One recording showed a council meeting. A woman named Hai stood before a group of survivors. She looked exhausted, her clothes torn and dirty, but her voice was strong. The predecessor alliance tried to exterminate us because they feared what we might become, Hai said. If we take revenge, if we destroy them, we prove their fear was justified. We become the monsters they thought we were. But if we do nothing, they'll just try again with the next species that shows potential. They've done it before. We found records. 17 other species over the past 100,000 years. 17 races that started to evolve beyond the expected limits. All of them mysteriously went extinct. The predecessor alliance has been culling the galaxy, keeping everyone at a level they can control. The room was silent. Then a man spoke. So what do you suggest? We remove them, Hai said simply. Not destroy them, not kill them. We take away their power. We reduce them back to where they were before they started building their empire. We give them a chance to start over and choose a different path. And we leave a warning for everyone else, so this never happens again. The vote was unanimous. Humanity would act, but they would act with mercy. The next displays showed what happened next, and Day felt his mouth go dry. In 47 hours, ascended humans dismantled an empire that had ruled for 600,000 years. They didn't use weapons. They didn't need to. They simply went to every predecessor world and changed things. One display showed a predecessor command ship. It was massive, powerful, capable of destroying planets. Then a human appeared on the bridge, not physically, more like a projection, or maybe a thought that had taken form. The human touched the ship's controls, and they stopped being technology. They became inert metal and plastic. No explosion. No violence. The ship just ceased to function. This happened everywhere. Every predecessor weapon became useless. Every computer forgot how to process information. Every power plant shut down and wouldn't restart. In 2 days, an empire that spanned 10,000 worlds was reduced to pre-industrial technology. But the humans didn't kill anyone. They left food and water. They left medical supplies. They left instructions in every predecessor language on how to rebuild. And on every world, they left a monument with a message. Tay translated one of them. You have been given mercy, we were not. You tried to destroy us for the crime of evolution. We have reduced you for the crime of genocide. Rebuild. Choose differently. Treat others with the kindness you denied us. Know that we will be watching. If you try this again with any other species, we will return. And next time, we will not be merciful. They were right to leave the warning, Wu said quietly. If humans could do this to the most powerful empire in the galaxy, what could they do to us? The displays shifted one final time. Now they showed Earth after the war. The survivors had gathered in one location, near the ruins of what used to be a city called Seoul. There were maybe 4 million of them left. Some had died even after the fighting stopped, unable to handle the rapid evolution. The humans began the final transformation. One by one, they let go of their physical forms. Their bodies turned into light, then into something beyond light, something that existed in higher dimensions. The displays couldn't show it properly. The images kept breaking up, showing impossible angles and colors that hurt to look at. But before they left, they did one last thing. They took the 40 billion who had died and preserved them. Every person who had been killed in the genocide, every life cut short, every dream ended too soon. The humans took those memories and crystallized them, then placed them in the debris field where Earth used to be, a memorial that would last forever. The last human to ascend was Hai, the woman who had led the council. She stood alone in the ruins and spoke to the camera one final time. "We don't know what we're becoming," she said. "We don't know if we'll still be us when the transformation completes. Maybe we'll lose ourselves. Maybe we'll become something terrible. But we have to go. We can't stay in this dimension anymore. We're too different now. Our presence bends reality in ways that could be dangerous. So we're leaving. We're going to the spaces between universes. We're going to watch and guard and make sure nothing like the predecessor alliance ever rises again. And we're leaving these records so you know what happened. So you know why we left the warning. Please, if you find this place, respect it. Honor the dead. Learn from our mistakes. And whatever you do, don't make us come back. Because if we return, it means something terrible has happened. Something so bad that we have to intervene. And we really don't want to intervene. We just want to rest." The image of Hai faded. The displays went dark. The cylinder in the center dimmed to a low glow. The synthetic voice spoke one last time. "End of Exodus records. This archive will remain here as long as the universe exists. Tell others what you learned. Share the warning. Remember that humanity died here. Remember that humanity transcended here. Remember that humanity is still watching. Thank you for listening." Day stood in silence. His team stood with him, equally stunned. They had come looking for ancient technology. Instead, they found a tragedy and a warning. "We need to tell Counselor Nari to stop the excavation," Hana said. "This isn't just archaeology. We're disturbing a grave, a memorial to 40 billion dead." "She won't listen," Day said. He knew Nari too well. She would see this as confirmation that human technology was worth having. She would push harder, dig deeper, take more risks. Commander Wu checked his communicator. His face went pale. "We have a problem. 2 more fleets just entered the system, Vrexian Collective and Nomadic clans. They detected our activity and came to investigate." "How many ships?" Hana asked. 12 Vrexian warships, 20 clan vessels. They're both moving toward the memorial beacon." Day felt dread settle in his stomach. 3 galactic powers in the same system, all trying to claim human technology. This wouldn't end peacefully. And somewhere in the higher dimensions, he had to hope that the ascended humans weren't paying attention. Because if they were, if they saw what was about to happen to their memorial, they might decide to come back after all. The tension in the Sol system grew worse by the hour. 3 fleets from 3 different civilizations circled each other like predators. The Caltherian ships held position near the artificial moon. The Vrexian collective vessels spread out across the debris field. The nomadic clans positioned themselves near the memorial beacon. Nobody fired yet, but it was only a matter of time. Day returned to the Eternal Curiosity to find Admiral Sung in an emergency communication with Counselor Nari. The Admiral looked angry. The Counselor looked excited. "This is exactly what I predicted," Nari was saying. "The other powers know something valuable is here. If we don't claim it now, they will. I'm authorizing full salvage operations. Take whatever technology you can find and bring it back to Caltherian space. Counselor, with respect, starting salvage operations now will trigger a war, Sung argued. The Vrexians won't let us take technology without fighting for it. Neither will the clans. Then we fight. Our fleet is strong enough. Our fleet is 12 ships. The Vrexians have 12. The clans have 20. If this turns into combat, we're outnumbered. Nari waved his concern away. They won't work together. They hate each other as much as they hate us. We can handle them separately. Day couldn't stay quiet. Counselor, you're missing the point. This isn't about military strength. The humans left a warning. We're disturbing a memorial. We need to leave before something happens. Nari looked at him with contempt. Archaeologist, your job is to study the past, not make policy decisions. The warning was left 40,000 years ago. Whatever humans became, they're gone. They haven't interfered with galactic affairs in recorded history. They're not coming back. The communication ended. Sung looked at Day with resignation. She's going to get us all killed. Can't you override her orders? Hana asked. She's on the High Council. I'm just an admiral. If I refuse her orders, I'll be removed from command, and someone else will follow them anyway. Sung sighed. Start the salvage operations. Try to be quick about it, and pray the other fleets give us time. The Caltherian team began collecting samples from the debris field. They focused on the crystallized remains, hoping to understand how the preservation technology worked. Day supervised reluctantly. Every piece they took felt like grave robbing, because that's exactly what it was. Yuna discovered something that made the situation worse. She was analyzing one of the crystals when her instruments detected unusual quantum activity. The crystal was responding to being removed from the debris field. It was sending signals. Signals to what? Day asked. I don't know. They're quantum-entangled transmissions. They're going somewhere outside normal space-time, into higher dimensions. Yuna looked scared. Day, I think these crystals are connected to the ascended humans. We're not just taking artifacts. We're disturbing active systems. Before Day could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. On the main view screen, he saw the Vrexian fleet moving. They weren't heading toward the Caltherians. They were going to the memorial beacon. A Vrexian voice broadcast on all frequencies. Attention all vessels. The Vrexian Collective claims this system under right of discovery. All other parties have 1 hour to withdraw or face military action. A nomadic clan leader responded immediately. The clans recognize no such claim. We were here first. This system belongs to those who can hold it. Then we'll see who can hold it, the Vrexian commander said. The first shots fired 30 seconds later. Vrexian beam weapons lit up space, targeting clan ships. The clans returned fire with kinetic projectiles moving at relativistic speeds. The battle was brief and violent. 2 clan ships exploded. 1 Vrexian cruiser broke apart. Then the Caltherian fleet received orders from Nari. Engage both enemy forces. This system belongs to us. This is insane, Hana whispered. But orders were orders. The Caltherian ships opened fire. Now 3 civilizations were fighting in a system that held nothing but a memorial and a warning. Day watched ships die and felt sick. People were killing each other over technology they didn't understand and probably shouldn't have. In the middle of the battle, something changed. The debris field started to glow. The billions of crystallized remains began to shine with the same blue light as the memorial beacon. The light grew brighter and brighter until Day had to shield his eyes. What's happening? Hana shouted over the alarm systems. Yuna checked her instruments, her hands shaking. The crystals are activating. All of them. All 40 billion at once. The quantum signals are reaching critical levels. Something's responding. The crystals began to crack. Not breaking, but opening. From each one emerged something that looked like light shaped into a human form. Billions of figures appeared in space, glowing and translucent. standing in the void as if it was solid ground. "They're not alive," Una said, reading the data flooding her screens. "They're memory constructs, preserved consciousness given temporary physical form. They're guardians." The fighting stopped. All three fleets ceased fire, staring at the impossible sight. 40 billion glowing figures surrounded them. The figures didn't attack. They just stood there, watching, waiting. Then they moved. Not toward the ships, but toward them. The Guardians passed through the hulls as if they weren't there. They appeared inside the ships, walking through corridors and chambers. One appeared on the bridge of the Eternal Curiosity, standing right in front of Day. It was a woman. She looked young, maybe 25. She wore clothes from 40,000 years ago, and her face held infinite sadness. When she spoke, her voice echoed inside Day's head rather than coming from outside. "You were warned," she said. "You were asked to leave. You were shown what we became and why, but you stayed. You fought. You disturbed the dead. Now you will understand." Before Day could respond, the Guardian reached out and touched his forehead. The world disappeared. Suddenly Day was somewhere else. He was on Earth, but Earth before the destruction. He stood in a city full of humans going about their lives. He could feel their emotions, their thoughts, their dreams. He felt the joy of a father watching his daughter learn to walk. He felt the pride of a student graduating from university. He felt the love between partners meeting after a long day. He felt life. Then the sky burned. Ships appeared. Weapons fired. The city turned to ash in seconds. Day felt every death, every person's last thought, every parent trying to shield their child, every friend reaching for another. 40 billion lives ended in terror and pain, and Day experienced all of it compressed into a single eternal moment. He screamed. He tried to pull away, but he couldn't. The Guardian held him there, forcing him to witness. "This is what was done to us," the Guardian said. "This is the pain we carried. This is why we changed. Feel it, know it, understand it." Then the scene shifted. Now Day saw the survivors. He felt their grief, their rage, their desperate need for meaning in the face of impossible loss. He felt them changing, evolving, ascending. He felt the moment they realized they could fight back, the moment they chose mercy over revenge, the moment they decided to leave. He saw through the eyes of Hai as she took one last look at Earth before ascending. He felt her hope that future civilizations would be better, her prayer that the memorial would teach rather than tempt, her fear that people would come seeking power and miss the lesson entirely. The Guardian released him. Day collapsed to the floor, gasping. Tears streamed down his face. Around him, his crew was experiencing the same thing. Every person on every ship in the system was being shown the truth. The Guardian looked down at him. "Now you know. We died here. We transcended here. We left everything behind to keep the galaxy safe. And you came seeking power. You came disturbing the peace we bought with 40 billion lives. You came with war." "I'm sorry," Day choked out. "I'm so sorry. I tried to stop them. I tried to make them listen." "We know. Some of you understood, but not enough. Your leaders saw opportunity where they should have seen warning. So now they face us." The Guardians on the military ships were delivering a harsher lesson. In the Rexian command vessel, officers experienced not just the human genocide, but every genocide the predecessor alliance had committed. 17 species over 100,000 years. 17 civilizations ended because they showed too much potential. In the nomadic clan ships, warriors who lived for battle felt what it was like to be helpless. To watch loved ones die and be unable to stop it. To survive when everyone else perished. In the Caltherian fleet, Admiral Sung experienced Hai's final moments, her last thoughts before ascending, her hope and her fear intertwined. When the vision ended, he was weeping. The Guardians spoke as one. their voices echoing through every ship. You have 40 billion witnesses now. You have felt what we felt. You have seen what we saw. You know why we left the warning. Will you finally listen? Will you leave? Or must we call those who became more than us? On the main view screen, Day saw something impossible. The space near the memorial beacon was bending. Reality itself was cracking like glass. Through the cracks, something was looking back. Something vast and terrible and unutterably sad. "They're still here," Hannah whispered in awe. "The ascended humans. They never left. They've been watching the whole time." The Guardians nodded. "They guard the spaces between realities. They fight things you cannot imagine. They are tired. They are fading. Every time they intervene in your dimension, it costs them. It weakens them. It alerts the things they fight, but if you force them to act, they will. They will protect this memorial. They will protect the memory of those who died, no matter the cost. So we ask you one final time, will you leave, or will you make them choose between you and everything else?" Day pulled himself to his feet. He looked at Hannah, at Yuna, at Tai, at Wu. He saw understanding in their eyes, horror, shame, but also resolve. "We'll leave," he said. "All of us. We'll tell everyone what we learned. We'll make sure people understand. No one will disturb this place again." The Guardian smiled sadly. "We hope so. We truly do. But hope is dangerous for those who have lost everything. So we leave you with this." She gestured to the view screen. The cracks in space were widening. Through them, shapes were emerging. Not the ascended humans. Something else. Something that made the fabric of reality scream. "This is what they fight," the Guardian said. "Entities from beyond your universe. Things that hunger for conscious life. The ascended humans hold them back. They guard the boundaries. They die slowly so you can live safely. And every time they manifest in your dimension, these things sense them. Come hunting. This fight you started? It just rang a dinner bell for predators you cannot comprehend. The ascended humans will win, because they must. But it will cost them dearly. Remember that cost. Remember what your curiosity and your greed made them pay." The Guardians began to fade. Before she disappeared entirely, the woman looked at Day one last time. "Tell them," she said. "Tell everyone. Humanity died here. Humanity transcended here. Humanity still fights here. Honor that, learn from it, and never ever make them come back." Then she was gone. All 40 billion Guardians vanished, returning to their crystalline prisons. The cracks in space sealed. The memorial beacon pulsed once, bright and urgent, then went dark. But everyone in the system had learned the lesson, learned it in a way they would never forget. They had been given mercy. They had been given understanding. Now they had to decide what to do with it. The 3 fleets hung in space like wounded animals. Every person aboard every ship had experienced the Guardian's message. They had felt 40 billion deaths. They had witnessed humanity's choice to show mercy instead of revenge. Most importantly, they had seen glimpses of what the ascended humans were still fighting in the darkness beyond reality. Admiral Sung was the first to break the silence. His message broadcast to all vessels in the system. "This is Admiral Sung of the Caltherian Empire. I propose an immediate ceasefire. What we just experienced changes everything. We need to leave this system and never return." The Vrexian commander responded quickly. Her voice sounded shaken. "The Vrexian Collective agrees. We will withdraw immediately. This place is a tomb. It should remain that way." The nomadic clans took longer to respond. Their culture valued strength above all else, and what they had witnessed was strength beyond their comprehension. Finally, their leader spoke. "The clans acknowledge the warning. We will depart. But first, we honor the dead. A moment of silence for those who fell here 40,000 years ago." For 60 seconds, the entire system was quiet. Three civilizations that had been shooting at each other minutes ago now shared a moment of respect for people long gone. It was a start, maybe even the beginning of something better. Then Counselor Nari's voice cut through the silence. All Caltharian vessels, ignore Admiral Sung's order. Hold your positions. Continue salvage operations. Day couldn't believe what he was hearing. She can't be serious. But Hana's face showed she knew better. She's not here. She didn't experience what we experienced. To her, this is still just a political opportunity. Sung's response was immediate. Counselor, I must strongly advise against this course of action. What we witnessed was not an illusion or a trick. The Guardians showed us truth. The ascended humans are real, and they are watching us. I watched the recordings from your ships, Nari replied coldly. I saw shared hallucinations induced by ancient technology. Impressive, but not proof of anything. The humans are gone, Admiral. They've been gone for 40,000 years. If they were still active, we would have encountered them before now. This is psychological warfare from a dead species. Nothing more. You weren't here, Sung said, his voice rising. You didn't feel what we felt. You don't understand. I understand that we have an opportunity to secure technology that could ensure our civilization's survival for the next 10,000 years. And I understand that you're letting fear control you. Now follow orders, or I'll find an admiral who will. The communication ended. Sung stood on his bridge, face pale. Dee knew what the admiral was thinking. If he followed orders, he risked catastrophe. If he disobeyed, he would be removed from command, and someone else would follow the orders anyway. Either way, the outcome was the same. Admiral, Commander Wu said quietly, what are your orders? Sung closed his eyes. When he opened them again, he looked like he had aged 10 years. We follow Counselor Nari's commands, but slowly. Give the other fleets time to leave, and if anything else happens, if there's any sign the Guardians are returning, we evacuate immediately. Orders or no orders. The Vrexian and Clan fleets began their withdrawal. Some of their vessels were damaged from the brief battle. They moved carefully, helping each other, showing a cooperation that would have been impossible an hour ago. Shared trauma had made them allies, at least temporarily. As they left, the Vrexian commander sent one final message. Caltharians, you're making a mistake. We felt what your people felt. We all experienced the same truth. Whatever your leader thinks, she's wrong. Leave while you can. But Nari had already deployed 3 more ships from the nearest Caltharian world. They arrived within hours, carrying specialized equipment for dismantling and transporting ancient technology. The new ship's crews hadn't experienced the Guardians. To them, this was just another salvage operation. Day watched from the eternal curiosity as the work began. Teams in vacuum suits approached the crystallized remains. They used cutting tools to separate pieces from the debris field. Each piece they took made Day feel sick. They were desecrating a grave. Disturbing a memorial built from grief and preserved with technology they didn't understand. How many pieces have they taken? Hana asked. Yuna checked her instruments. 47 crystals so far. They're focusing on the ones that showed the most activity when the Guardians manifested. They think those contain the most advanced technology. They're wrong, Tay said. He had spent the last few hours analyzing the Guardian's message. The crystals don't contain technology. They contain people, or what's left of people. Taking them isn't salvaging equipment. It's kidnapping the dead. As if to prove his point, the quantum readings that Yuna was monitoring began to change. The same signals that had appeared before the Guardians manifested were starting again, but this time they were stronger, more urgent. Something's coming, Yuna said. The crystals are responding to being removed. They're calling out. To what? Wu asked. To whoever's listening. The memorial beacon suddenly blazed to life. It had been dark since the Guardians departed. Now it shone so brightly that ships had to filter their view screens to look at it. The symbols on its surface began to move, flowing like water, rearranging themselves into new patterns. Tay translated the new message. His hands shook as he worked. It's counting down. 10 minutes. 9 minutes and 58 seconds. 9 minutes and 57 seconds. Counting down to what? Day demanded. It doesn't say. Just final warning. Departure time remaining. Day opened communication with Nari's command ship. Counselor, the beacon is active again. It's giving us a countdown. We need to leave now. Nari appeared on screen. She was in a shuttle approaching one of the larger crystal clusters. I can see the beacon from here, archaeologist. It's still doing what it's been doing for 40,000 years, trying to scare us away. But I'm not scared. We're taking these crystals back to Caltherian space for study. Imagine what we'll learn. How to preserve consciousness. How to build materials that don't decay. How to manipulate higher dimensions. This is exactly what we came for. This is insane, Hana muttered. The countdown reached 5 minutes. The quantum signals grew stronger. Yuna's instruments were registering readings that shouldn't be possible. Space-time itself was beginning to warp around the debris field. Admiral Sung, Day called. You need to order an evacuation. Whatever's coming, we don't want to be here when it arrives. Sung didn't argue. All ships, prepare for immediate departure. Drop whatever you're carrying and move to minimum safe distance. Most ships obeyed instantly, but Nari's vessel and 2 others stayed in position. They had just secured a particularly large crystal, nearly 10 meters across, and Nari wasn't willing to abandon it. Counselor, I'm ordering you to withdraw, Sung said. And I'm reminding you that I outrank you, Admiral. We're taking this crystal. It's worth more than your entire fleet. The countdown hit 2 minutes. The crystal in Nari's cargo hold began to glow. Then it cracked. A Guardian emerged, but this one was different. Larger, brighter, more solid. It looked directly at Nari with eyes full of sorrow. You were given warning, the Guardian said. You were shown truth. You were offered mercy. But still you take. Still you disturb. Still you refuse to understand. Very well. You want to see what we became? You want to witness what 40,000 years of evolution and sacrifice created? Then look. Look and understand what you have forced us to do. The Guardian raised one translucent hand. The space around Nari's ship simply stopped being normal. Reality bent. Dimensions that shouldn't exist became visible. And through those dimensions, something was emerging. 12 figures appeared in space. They weren't human anymore. Calling them human would be like calling a star a candle. They were massive, each one the size of a small moon. They were made of light and mathematics and conscious thought given form. They were ascended humans, and their presence made every instrument in the system scream with impossible readings. One of them moved closer to Nari's ship. When it spoke, everyone in the system heard it. The voice didn't come through communicators. It came from inside their minds, gentle but irresistible. We did not want to return, it said. Every moment we spend in your dimension weakens us. Every action we take alerts the entities we guard against. We have been fighting for 40,000 years to keep you safe from things you cannot imagine. We are tired. We are fading. We want nothing more than to rest. But you would not leave. You would not listen. You forced us to choose. So now we ask you directly. Will you leave this place? Will you honor the memorial we built from our tears, or must we make you leave? Nari stared at the being through her view screen. To her credit, she didn't panic. Her voice was steady when she spoke. You're trying to intimidate us, trying to keep us from advancing, just like the predecessor alliance tried to do to you. You became what they feared. Now you want to keep everyone else from following your path. No, the ascended human said sadly. We want to keep you from needing our path. We want you to live and grow and evolve naturally, to have time to adapt, to make choices instead of being forced by trauma. We did not choose to ascend. It was done to us by those who feared us. The process was agony. We lost everything that made us human. We lost the ability to feel warmth, to taste food, to hold someone we love. We gained cosmic awareness and lost the simple joy of watching a sunset. Is that what you want? Is that worth the technology you're stealing? That's for us to decide, Nari said. Then decide quickly, another ascended human said. Because your presence here, our presence here, has been noticed. Look! The space behind the 12 ascended humans tore open. Not like the small cracks from before. This was a massive wound in reality itself. Through it, Day could see something that made his mind hurt to perceive. It was huge, hungry, and utterly alien. It existed in dimensions that biological brains weren't meant to process. That is what we fight, the first ascended human explained. Entities from beyond your universe. They feed on consciousness, on life, on entire civilizations. They have been trying to enter this reality for 40,000 years. We stop them. We hold the boundaries. We die slowly, piece by piece, so you can live. And every time we manifest in your dimension, we become visible to them. They sense us. They come hunting. You see that thing? That's only a small one. There are bigger entities. Worse entities. And your stubbornness just summoned one. The entity pushed against reality, trying to force its way through. The 12 ascended humans turned away from the fleets. They positioned themselves between the entity and the rest of the system, and they began to fight. Day couldn't understand what he was seeing. The battle happened across multiple dimensions simultaneously. He saw the ascended humans weaving barriers of pure mathematics. He saw the entity trying to unravel those barriers. He saw reality itself being used as a weapon. And he saw the ascended humans paying the cost. Every attack they made, every defense they raised, diminished them. They were literally spending themselves to keep the entity from entering the system. "This is what you made us do," one of them said, voice strained with effort. "This is the price of your curiosity. We will win. We must win. But it will cost us decades of existence. Years we could have spent guarding other boundaries, other threats. And if we fail, if we're too weakened to close this breach properly, that thing will enter your universe. It will consume every conscious being it finds, starting with you." Counselor Nari finally understood. Day saw it on her face, the realization of what she had done, what she had risked, not just her own life, but potentially the entire galaxy. "What do you want us to do?" she asked, voice small. "Leave," the ascended humans said in unison. "Leave and never return. Tell your people what you saw. Teach them why the warning exists. Make them understand that some things are sacred not because they're holy, but because disturbing them has consequences. Go. Now, we cannot protect you and fight this entity at the same time." The countdown on the beacon hit 0, and reality itself began to scream. Admiral Sung didn't wait for Nari's permission. "All ships, emergency jump. Leave the system now. That's a direct order." The Caltherian fleet began powering up their faster-than-light drives, but Nari's ship was still holding the massive crystal. The weight was throwing off their calculations. They needed at least 3 minutes to recalibrate. They didn't have 3 minutes. The entity pushed harder against the boundary. The 12 ascended humans strained to hold it back. One of them flickered, becoming translucent. It was fading, using too much energy, dying to keep the entity contained. "We cannot hold much longer," the ascended human said. "If you do not leave, you will die here, and your deaths will be meaningless, worse than meaningless. That entity will consume your consciousness. Add your minds to its hunger. Use you as fuel to grow stronger. Is your pride worth that?" Nari finally gave the order. "Release the crystal. Prepare for emergency jump." The cargo bay opened. The massive crystal floated out into space. The moment it left the ship, something changed. All the crystals in the debris field began to glow again. Not the soft blue light from before. This was different. Angry. Red like blood. "They're awakening again," Yuna said, watching her instruments with wide eyes. "But this time it's different. The Guardians are manifesting with full consciousness. Not just showing memories, they're aware, they're angry." 40 billion figures emerged from the crystallized remains. But these weren't the sad, mournful Guardians from before. These ones blazed with fury. 40 billion humans who had died in terror and pain, preserved for 40,000 years, now awakened to find their resting place violated. One Guardian appeared on the bridge of the Eternal Curiosity. It was a man this time, wearing the burned remnants of what might have been a uniform. His face was twisted with rage. "You took our remains," he said, voice like ice. "You disturbed our peace. You forced our protectors to fight. You made them weak. All for what? Technology? Power? We died so you could live. We preserved ourselves so you could learn, and you learned nothing." "We're leaving," Day said quickly. "We understand now. We're sorry." "Sorry?" The Guardian laughed bitterly. "Sorry doesn't restore the energy our Ascended Ones just spent. Sorry doesn't close the wound in reality. Sorry doesn't undo your choice to value power over wisdom. But perhaps fear will teach you what compassion could not." The Guardian gestured. Suddenly, Day wasn't on his ship anymore. He was standing in empty space, floating near the entity that was trying to break through. Up close, it was even more horrible. He could see mouths that weren't mouths, eyes that saw through dimensions, hunger that had no end. "Look at it," the Guardian said, appearing beside him. "Really look. This is what exists beyond your safe little universe. Predators that make your worst nightmares look like children's stories. They have been trying to get in since before your species evolved. And for 40,000 years, the ascended humans have stood in their way, alone, exhausted, fading, but still fighting, still protecting ungrateful civilizations like yours. Do you understand now? Do you see what you almost unleashed?" Day couldn't speak. The entity's presence was overwhelming. He could feel its hunger like gravity pulling at his consciousness. It wanted to consume him, to add his mind to its endless appetite. "This is a small one," the Guardian continued. "A scout. There are entities out there that span galaxies, that feed on entire realities. The ascended humans fight them all. Fight them until they fade to nothing, until they cease to exist. And they do it without thanks, without recognition, without hope of rest. They do it because someone must. Because if they stop, everything ends, everyone dies. Including you." The vision ended. Day was back on his bridge, gasping. Around him, his crew was experiencing the same thing. Every person on every ship saw the entity up close, felt its hunger, understood the true scope of what the ascended humans were doing. Hana was crying. Tay had fallen to his knees. Even Commander Wu, a soldier who had seen countless battles, looked shaken. "Now you know," the Guardian said. "Now you truly understand. The warning wasn't just about respecting the dead. It was about protecting the living. Every time someone disturbs this place, the Ascended Ones must respond. And every response weakens them, makes them less able to hold the boundaries. You didn't just disrespect a memorial. You put the entire galaxy at risk. For technology, for power, for pride." In space, the battle was reaching its peak. The 12 ascended humans had formed a barrier of pure will between the entity and reality. They were pushing it back, inch by inch, forcing it through the wound it had created. But the cost was terrible. 3 of the ascended humans dimmed to almost nothing. They were nearly gone, having spent themselves completely. The remaining 9 kept fighting, but they were weakening too. If the entity broke through now, there wouldn't be enough of them left to stop it. The 40 billion guardians acted as one. They flowed out from the debris field like a river of light. They surrounded the 12 ascended humans, adding their own energy to the fight. Preserved consciousness, giving what little power they had to help their evolved descendants. "We remember," the guardians said together. "We remember choosing to ascend. Remember the pain. Remember the sacrifice. Remember becoming less so others could become more. You carried our burden for 40,000 years. Let us help carry it now. Let us be more than memories. Let us be useful one last time." The combined force of 40 billion guardians and 12 ascended humans finally turned the tide. The entity shrieked, a sound that existed across all dimensions simultaneously. It was forced back through the wound, back to the void between universes. The ascended humans sealed the breach behind it, weaving reality itself into a patch that would hold. But when it was done, only 9 ascended humans remained. 3 had faded completely, given everything they were to close the wound, and the remaining 9 were barely visible, their forms flickering like dying stars. The guardians returned to their crystals, but before they did, the angry guardian who had spoken today appeared one more time. His fury had been replaced by exhaustion. "They lost 3 of their number because of you," he said quietly. 3 beings who had fought for 40,000 years, protected trillions of lives, held back horrors beyond counting. Gone now, faded to nothing, because you couldn't respect a simple warning. I hope your technology was worth it. "It wasn't," Day said, voice breaking. "I'm so sorry. We'll make sure everyone knows. We'll make sure this never happens again." "Good. Because the 9 that remain are weaker now. The next time an entity attacks, it will be harder to stop. The time after that, harder still. One day, there will be too few of them left. And when that day comes, when the last ascended human fades away, nothing will stand between your universe and the things that hunger for it. Your grandchildren's grandchildren will die because of what you did here today. Remember that. Teach that. Make sure every single person in the galaxy knows the true cost of disturbing this place." The guardian faded. The crystals returned to their dormant state. The memorial beacon pulsed once, then went dark again. The 9 remaining ascended humans floated in space, so faint they were barely visible. One of them spoke, and Day heard the weariness in its voice, the bone-deep exhaustion of an entity that had been fighting for longer than most civilizations existed. "We asked you to flee," it said. "We begged you to learn. We showed you truth. And still you chose poorly. But we do not blame you entirely. You are young. Your civilizations are infants compared to what came before. You don't understand the weight of time, the burden of knowledge, the cost of responsibility. So we will teach you one final lesson. Then we must return to our watch, return to the darkness between realities where we belong." The ascended human gestured. Every ship's communication system activated, every screen showed the same image. It was Earth as it had been, blue and green and beautiful, full of life and hope and possibility. "This is what we were," the ascended human said. "A world, a people, a dream of something better. We reached for the stars. We made art and music and stories. We laughed and loved and lived. Then we met others who feared what we might become. They tried to end us. They failed. We evolved. We transcended. And we lost everything that made life worth living." The image changed. Now it showed the ascended humans as they were now. Vast, powerful, incomprehensible, but also alone, isolated, unable to experience the simple pleasures they once knew. "We can no longer taste food," the ascended human said, "or feel the warmth of sunlight, or hold someone we care about. We exist across dimensions that biological minds cannot perceive. We fight entities that have no form, no purpose except consumption. We have been doing this for 40,000 years. We will continue for as long as we can, not because we want to, but because we must, because there is no one else." A third image appeared. This showed the 9 remaining ascended humans standing together, surrounded by darkness, alone against infinity. "We are fading," the ascended human admitted. "Each battle costs us. Each manifestation in your dimension weakens us. One day, perhaps in another 10,000 years, perhaps tomorrow, we will fade completely. And then the entities will come. They will pour through the boundaries we can no longer hold. They will consume everything, every world, every species, every consciousness that exists. Your descendants will face horrors we can no longer stop, unless you grow up, unless you become strong enough, wise enough, responsible enough to take our place." The images faded. The ascended human looked directly at the fleet, at Day, at Nari, at everyone. "This is our final message," it said. "Grow, evolve, learn. Not through forced transcendence like we did, but naturally, carefully, with time to adapt. Build civilizations that value wisdom over power. Teach your children to respect boundaries, to understand that some warnings exist for good reasons. And perhaps if you grow enough, when we finally fade, you will be ready to guard the boundaries yourselves. Ready to make the sacrifice we made. Ready to stand against the darkness. But until that day, honor this memorial. Honor the 40 billion who died here. Honor the sacrifice we made when we chose to protect rather than destroy. Leave this place in peace. Let the dead rest. And never ever make us return. Because each time we do, we have less strength remaining. And the galaxy needs us to last as long as possible." The 9 ascended humans began to fade, returning to their higher dimensions, going back to their eternal watch. "Go now," they said. "Tell others what you learned. Build a better galaxy. And pray that you are ready when we are gone." Then they were gone. The system was empty again except for the memorial beacon, the debris field, and the departing fleet. But everything had changed. Everyone who had been here knew the truth now, knew what humanity had become, knew what they still protected, knew the cost. The question was, would they remember? Would they learn? Would they be better? Or would fear and greed bring others back to this place, forcing the weakened guardians to fight again? Only time would tell. The Caltherian fleet limped back to their home system. Several ships had suffered damage during the emergency jump. More than damage, though, they carried scars that didn't show on sensors. Every crew member had seen things that would haunt them forever. Day stood in his quarters on the Eternal Curiosity, staring at the data he had collected. Recordings of the Guardians, scans of the memorial, translations of the warning. He had everything needed to prove what happened, to show the galaxy the truth. But would anyone believe him? Hana entered without knocking. She had stopped following protocol 3 days ago. They had all changed. "The High Council wants a full report. They're gathering in 2 hours. Nari will be there. So will Admiral Sung." "What are you going to tell them?" Day asked. "The truth. What else can I say? I saw ascended humans fight an entity from beyond reality. I felt 40 billion deaths. I watched 3 godlike beings sacrifice themselves to save us from our own stupidity. How do I put that in a military report?" "Very carefully," Day said, "because half of them won't believe it. They'll think we experienced a shared hallucination, or that we fell for some kind of psychological warfare. They'll want to send another expedition." Hana closed her eyes. "Then we stop them, however we have to." The council chamber was packed. Not just the 12 council members, but representatives from across the Caltherian Empire. News of the expedition had leaked. Everyone wanted to know what had been found in the Sol system. Admiral Sung spoke first. He was wearing his full dress uniform, medals from 50 years of service gleaming on his chest. He stood straight despite his age, but Day could see the weight on his shoulders. "The expedition to the Sol system has concluded," Sung began. "We encountered technology and entities far beyond our understanding. We lost no personnel, but we came dangerously close to causing a catastrophic incident that could have threatened the entire galaxy. I am recommending immediate and permanent quarantine of the system. No further expeditions, no salvage operations. The system should be left completely undisturbed." Counselor Nari stood. She had been quiet during the journey home, processing what she had seen. But now her political instincts had returned. "With respect, Admiral, I disagree with your assessment. Yes, we encountered unexpected phenomena. Yes, there were risks. But we also confirmed the existence of incredibly advanced technology. Technology that could benefit our entire civilization. Walking away now would be a waste of a historic opportunity." "You saw what I saw," Sung said, his voice hard. "You felt what we all felt. 3 beings died because we didn't leave when we were warned. How is that a waste we should repeat?" "I saw projections and manifestations created by technology we don't understand," Nari countered. "Yes, they were impressive, even frightening. But that doesn't mean we should accept everything at face value. The ascended humans, if they even exist, want us to leave. That suggests there's something there worth protecting, something worth having." The chamber erupted in argument. Half the council agreed with Sung. The other half sided with Nari. They were going to vote to return. Dai could see it happening. He stood. "Council members, may I speak?" The chamber quieted. Day was just an archaeologist. He had no political power, but he had been there. His testimony mattered. "I understand your skepticism," Day said. "I would be skeptical too if I had only heard the story. But I was there. I felt things that cannot be explained by technology alone. The Guardians didn't just show me memories. They let me experience them. I felt 40 billion people dying. I felt their fear, their pain, their hope that something good would come from their deaths. And I saw what came from it. Beings who sacrificed their humanity to protect ungrateful people like us." "That's very moving," one council member said. "But it could have been an elaborate illusion, designed to keep us away from valuable technology." "Then explain the entity," Hana interjected. She had moved to stand beside Day. "Explain the wound in reality. Explain how 3 of the ascended humans disappeared completely. Our sensors recorded all of it. That wasn't an illusion." "That was real." Yuna stepped forward. "I have the quantum data, the readings from the battle, energy signatures that don't match any known physics, dimensional fluctuations that shouldn't be possible. Whatever was happening there, it was beyond our current understanding of reality itself." Tay joined them. "And I have the translations, hundreds of warnings in dozens of languages, all saying the same thing. Flee, respect the dead, learn from our mistakes. These aren't the words of a civilization trying to protect technology. These are the words of people trying to protect us from ourselves." Commander Wu was the last to speak. "I'm a soldier. I've seen combat on 20 worlds. I know the difference between a threat display and a real danger. What we saw in that system was real. Those entities were real. And the 9 ascended humans who remain are the only thing standing between us and something worse than extinction. We should leave them alone. Let them do their job, and pray they last long enough for us to grow up." The chamber fell silent. The unified testimony from the expedition team carried weight. These weren't politicians with agendas. These were professionals who had seen something that changed them fundamentally. Counselor Nari stood again, but when she spoke, her voice was different, softer, less certain. "I was there too. I saw everything you saw. And you're right. What we experienced was real. But I'm afraid the Vrexian Collective and the nomadic clans were in that system. They saw what we saw. What if they decide to take the risk anyway? What if they send expeditions while we sit back?" "We can't afford to fall behind." Then we don't sit back, Admiral Sung said. We take the lead in a different direction. We propose a joint agreement between all three powers, a treaty declaring the Sol system forbidden territory. Any ship that enters faces consequences from all three civilizations. We turn protection of the memorial into something that unites us rather than divides us. It was a radical idea. The three powers had been rivals for centuries. They had fought wars, competed for resources, viewed each other as threats, but what they had experienced in the Sol system had shaken them all equally. Would they even agree? A council member asked. They might, Hana said, because they're asking themselves the same questions we are. They're afraid, too. Afraid of what they saw. Afraid of what might happen if they ignore the warning. Fear can divide people, but shared fear can unite them. The High Council voted. It was close. 7-5 in favor of Admiral Sung's proposal. The Sol system would be quarantined, and the Caltherian Empire would reach out to the Rexian collective and nomadic clans to propose a treaty. 3 months later, representatives from all three civilizations met on a neutral station. Day was there as an advisor. So were Hana, Yuna, Tai, and Wu. They testified before the combined leadership, sharing everything they had experienced. The treaty was signed 1 week after that. The Sol Memorial Protection Accord. All three powers agreed to the same terms. No ships would enter the system. No attempts would be made to salvage technology. Any vessel that violated the treaty would face immediate response from all three militaries. But the treaty went further. It established a joint research station at the edge of the Sol system. Not to study the human technology, but to watch for dimensional intrusions, to monitor for signs of the entities the ascended humans were fighting, to be ready to help if the Guardians ever needed assistance. It wasn't perfect. Some members of all three civilizations still wanted access to human technology. There were protests, arguments, even a few attempted violations. But the treaty held because everyone who had been in the Sol system spread the word. They told the story, made sure people understood. 6 months after the treaty was signed, Day returned to the Sol system, just to the edge, where the new joint station was being built. The Eternal Curiosity held position near the boundary, close enough to see the debris field, but far enough to respect the quarantine. Hana joined him at the observation window. Do you think they know? The ascended humans? Do they know we're trying to do better? I hope so, Day said. I hope they're watching. I hope they see that at least some of us learned. As if in response, the memorial beacon pulsed once. Just a brief flash of light, too quick for sensors to fully register. But Day saw it. A signal, an acknowledgement, or maybe just a reminder. A reminder that the Guardians were still there, still watching, still fighting. Tay had spent the last 6 months working on a new project. He joined Day and Hana at the window, carrying a data tablet. I've finished the translation. Every warning, every message, every piece of text from the memorial, I've compiled it into a single document. I'm calling it the Testament of Sol. Every school in all three civilizations will have a copy. Required reading for every student. What does it say? Hana asked. Everything. The history of humanity. Their first contact with the predecessor alliance. The genocide. The ascension. The choice to show mercy. The 40,000 years of guardianship. The cost of that guardianship. And the warning. Always the warning. Respect boundaries. Value wisdom over power. Understand that some things are sacred not because they're holy, but because disturbing them has consequences. Will it be enough? Day wondered. I don't know, Tay admitted. People forget. Generations pass. The lessons of the past become stories. Stories become myths. Myths become dismissed as superstition. Maybe in 1,000 years someone will try again. Maybe they'll think they know better. Then we make sure the warning is so clear, so powerful, so undeniable that even 1,000 years from now people will understand, Wu said. He had been promoted to general after the mission. His first act was establishing the Memorial Protection Force, elite soldiers from all three civilizations, trained specifically to defend the Sol system. We build it into our culture, make it part of who we are. Teach our children that humanity died there. Humanity transcended there. Humanity still fights there. And we honor that by leaving them in peace. Yuna was monitoring the quantum readings from the system. She had been doing it every day since they returned, watching for any sign of the entities. Any indication that the ascended humans were struggling. "They're still fighting," she said quietly. "I can detect the signatures, very faint, very distant. But they're out there in the dark, holding the boundaries. 9 of them now instead of 12, still protecting us, still sacrificing." "Do you think they'll last?" Hana asked. "Long enough for us to be ready to take their place?" "I hope so," Yuna said, "because the alternative is unthinkable." Day looked at the debris field floating in the distance. 40 billion crystallized remains, a monument to loss and sacrifice, a warning written in the language of grief, and somewhere beyond perception, 9 tired gods still fighting an eternal war so that younger species could live in ignorant peace. "We owe them," Day said finally. "We owe them our lives, our civilizations, our future. The least we can do is honor their sacrifice, respect their warning, and try to become worthy of their protection." The memorial beacon pulsed again, brighter this time, as if in agreement. On the joint station, construction crews were installing a new feature, a massive holographic display that would show the Earth as it had been before its destruction. Beautiful, living, full of hope. Above it, in letters large enough to be seen from approaching ships, a message in every known language. Humanity died here. Humanity transcended here. Humanity still fights here. Honor their sacrifice. Respect their warning. Never disturb their rest. And below that, smaller but no less important. Remember that they gave everything so you could have something. Make it worth their cost. Day smiled. It wasn't perfect. It wouldn't stop everyone. But it was a start, a first step toward being better, toward learning, toward growing up as a galactic community. The eternal curiosity turned away from the Sol system. There were other mysteries to explore, other ruins to study, other stories to uncover. But Day knew he would never forget this place. None of them would. As they prepared to jump to faster-than-light speed, Day whispered a quiet prayer. Not to any god, but to the 9 ascended humans still fighting in the dark. "Thank you," he said, "for protecting us, for showing us mercy when we didn't deserve it, for teaching us even when we didn't want to learn. We'll try to be better. We'll try to make your sacrifice mean something. And when the time comes, when you finally fade, we'll do our best to take your place. We'll guard the boundaries. We'll face the darkness. We'll make the sacrifice you made, because that's what you taught us. That's the real lesson. Sometimes, being strong means being willing to give everything for people who might never know, who might never thank you, who might never understand. But you do it anyway, because someone must, and you chose to be that someone." The ship jumped. The Sol system disappeared behind them, but its lesson remained, written into their hearts, carved into their minds, a permanent reminder of what was lost, what was saved, and what was still at risk. Somewhere in dimensions beyond sight, in the spaces between realities, 9 ancient beings continued their eternal watch. They were tired. They were fading. They were so very alone. But they heard Day's prayer. They felt the intent behind it, the gratitude, the promise to try. And for the first time in 40,000 years, they felt something that might have been hope. Perhaps the younger species would grow up. Perhaps they would learn. Perhaps, when the last guardian finally faded, there would be someone ready to take their place. Perhaps humanity's sacrifice wouldn't be in vain after all. Time would tell, and the 9 remaining guardians would watch and wait and fight for as long as they could, giving the younger species every possible moment to mature, to prepare, to become ready for the burden they would one day inherit. It was all they could do, all anyone could do. Hold the line, protect the innocent, and hope that someone remembered why it mattered. In the dark between stars, the fight continued, silent, invisible, eternal, but not unwitnessed anymore, not forgotten. Humanity had left their mark. Not through conquest or domination, but through sacrifice. Through the choice to protect rather than destroy. Through the willingness to give everything for people they would never meet. That was the real message, the true warning, the lasting legacy. Not flee because we're powerful, but flee because we're tired, and we need you to respect what we're protecting so we can keep protecting it. And maybe, just maybe, the younger species finally understood. The end.